Welcome to The Explainer. It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? The smartest, absolutely most capable people are, very often, the absolute worst at asking for help. Today we're unpacking a deeply misunderstood psychological phenomenon, the solitude of hyper-independence. We're looking at that incredibly specific, really isolating experience where highly intelligent, high-functioning individuals find it literally impossible to reach out for support, even when they're totally drowning. If you're the kind of person who remembers everyone's birthday, manages all the crises at work, and acts as the unshakable rock for your friends, but you feel this creeping, paralyzing dread at the mere thought of asking for a favor, yeah, you know exactly what this feels like. We're going to dig beneath the surface and explore the hidden psychological architecture behind this trait. Let's uncover exactly why it happens and how it takes root.
Okay, let's dive into this. There's this strange, honestly exhausting duality to living this way. Outwardly, you're the ultimate fixer. You're the go-to person when things fall apart, precisely because you've got the intellect, the empathy, and the drive to untangle everyone else's chaotic problems. But internally, well, the reality is starkly different. When things fall apart for you, when you hit a wall or face genuine hardship, boom, the walls go up and the mouth zips shut. You retreat into struggling in complete silence. It's a massive, incredibly lonely paradox. You've got this brilliant capacity for complex problem solving, right? Yet there's a near total inability to voice your own basic human needs. And because you're just so competent, the people around you just kind of assume you don't need support. You become an island. You're trapped in the exhausting reality of being everything for everyone else while quietly suffocating under the weight of your own struggles.
To really grasp this, we've got to stop pathologizing today's symptoms, and instead, let's dig up the roots. Society loves to applaud hyper-independence. We call it hustle or grit or being driven, but clinically speaking, those are often just shiny labels for old wounds. The roots almost always burrow deep into childhood psychology. Now, we aren't here to judge your intense self-reliance as some modern-day character flaw, a massive ego, or stubbornness. Instead, we want to detach for a second and just look backward objectively. By examining the developmental stages of early childhood, we can decode exactly where, and more importantly, why, this intense silence was born in the first place. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that the groundwork for this silent struggle usually stems from one of two very specific early environments. The first is growing up as an ignored child. Now, hold on. This doesn't necessarily mean overt cinematic villainy from caregivers. It actually often happens in quiet, seemingly normal homes. Maybe your parents were working 3 jobs, dealing with their own untreated depression, or, managing a chronically ill sibling. It simply means your emotional or physical needs consistently went unmet or unseen. It's that profound, quiet realization at age 7 that crying simply doesn't bring anyone to the door. You learned early on that signaling for help was just a waste of energy. The second dynamic is experiencing parentification, which carries an entirely different but equally heavy psychological burden.
So the crucial point is understanding exactly what parentification means in this context. It is essentially being robbed of your childhood. It happens when the roles in a family system are entirely inverted. The child is forced to absorb the responsibilities of the adults around them. Think of the 10-year-old playing therapist to a volatile mother, the 12-year-old mediating their parents' divorce, or the teenager secretly managing the household budget just to keep the lights on. When you're a child forced into those shoes, you never get the chance to develop the fundamental expectation that someone bigger and stronger is going to catch you when you fall. You are forced to become the safety net. And the tragedy of being the safety net, you're not allowed to rely on one. You learn that your worth is tied exclusively to your utility.
What happens next is where this goes from being just a psychological theory to a physiological reality. It's genuinely incredible when you think about it, just how brilliant the human brain is at adapting to keep us alive. The early childhood environments of being ignored or parentified don't just shape your personality traits, they actually cause a profound neurological impact. Your highly intelligent brain, acting as this hyper-efficient survival machine, recognized very early on that asking for help was either useless or actively dangerous to the fragile stability of your family. So utilizing neuroplasticity, the brain physically adapts. It fortifies and thickens the neural pathways associated with absolute self-reliance, while aggressively pruning the synaptic bridges associated with vulnerability and seeking external support. Your brain was literally structurally rewired to optimize for threat reduction by relying solely on yourself.
And this brilliantly illustrates how it unfolds as an elegant, if tragic, biological algorithm. It's a direct cause and effect pipeline. Step 1. A difficult, early environment, whether that's the quiet neglect of being unseen or the heavy, totally inappropriate burden of parentification, forces the brain into a state of structural adaptation. Step 2, it rewires itself for a world where the cavalry just isn't coming, which, step 3, naturally and inevitably hardens into an armor of absolute, unshakable hyper-independence. Grasping this sequence is incredibly liberating because it proves that your extreme self-reliance is not a conscious choice or some personality defect. It's a deeply ingrained biological defense mechanism. You didn't choose this. Your biology built it to protect you when you were too small to protect yourself.
Let's move to and see how this builds a completely new, profound understanding of your own behavior. This completely flips the script on how we view self-reliance. For years, you might have carried a heavy, secret shame about this. You might have thought your inability to ask for help was a stubborn personal flaw, constantly wondering, why can't I just be normal and let people in? You might have blamed yourself for pushing people away when you needed them most. But based on the developmental psychology and the neurological rewiring we've just unpacked, we have to toss that narrative entirely. It's a highly logical, fiercely effective survival adaptation. It was absolutely the smartest thing you could have done given the environment you were dropped into.
Self-reliance is a survival adaptation, not a flaw. That is the core truth here. I really want you to let that reality resonate for a second. You are not broken because the words "I need help" catch in your throat. In fact, your mind functioned perfectly when you were young, vulnerable, and navigating an environment where you either had to be invisible or had to grow up a decade too fast. Your intelligence kicked in. It forged an impenetrable armor of absolute self-reliance. And guess what? That armor worked. It successfully got you through a deeply challenging, perhaps traumatic childhood. It is a testament to your resilience, your brilliance, and your enduring strength. It served a noble, vital purpose on the battlefield of your early years.
Which brings us to the ultimate and perhaps most difficult question to end our explainer on today. If this hyper-independence is a survival adaptation, are you actually still in survival mode right now? That heavy armor of self-reliance kept you safe during wartime, for sure, but wearing it during peacetime is exhausting. You have to ask yourself if you genuinely still need it in your present life. Are you still surrounded by people who will ignore your cries for help, or are you just operating from the phantom threats of a rewired childhood brain? Armor stops bullets, yes, but it also stops connection. It might be the very thing keeping you isolated today. It's a profound question to reflect on and an absolutely crucial first step toward finally letting yourself put down the weight of the world, something to deeply think about.